welcome to the first OTA video that you voted for. Sincerely, huge thank you to everyone who voted on this poll, even if you voted no. And also, incredible thanks to the 18 people who left comments on this. I have not responded to your comments yet because I haven't known how to with appropriate gratitude. Sincerely, it meant a lot to me. You're not here to have Harrison overshare about his life, but quickly before we get into the OTA, a big insecurity of mine that has affected me my whole life and continues to do is an insecurity that I talk too much and people don't want to hear what I have to say. I'm passionate. I like talking about things. I like talking about things that I'm interested in. And for most of my life, that's been annoying to the people around me. And even when I record videos, I'll do takes again and I'll get really stressed out that I'm not saying things the right way and that people aren't going to like it. My wife makes fun of me actually, in a fun, playful way. It's good. She helps me realize that I'm overthinking it. Anyway, it is a very humbling experience to have people say so kindly that they're interested in what I have to say. So thank you. It sincerely means a lot to me. So if my response to your comment isn't very well said, it's because you've humbled me with your comment. So thank you. It sincerely meant a lot to me. But you're not here to hear about that. You're here to hear about the OTA. You're here to hear. Let's get started with the very first card of this week's OTA. Debrii is going from a 3-2, 3-3, whatever she is, to a 3-7. Same text. Oh, actually, take that back. Her text is also changing. On reveal, add a rock to each other location, meaning just your locations, right? So before you'd play Debrii, and let's say you played her in the center location, you'd have a rock that would go to the left and right location on your side of the board and your opponent's side of the board. Debrii, now, if you play her in the center location, will only add a rock to the left location and the right location on your side of the board. It is no longer throwing rocks on your opponent's side of the board. That's the change. And so, appropriately so, she's gaining a large amount of power. You can read through what Second Dinner said in the notes, but you've maybe already read that. The summary is that when you play Clog, you can't play cards. The summary is that when your opponent plays Clog, you can't play cards, and not being able to play your cards is not fun. So they want Clog to require more effort. So they've changed Debrii. So they want Clog to be a strategy still. They want it to be something that you can be invested in, but it should require more effort on your part to be able to clog your opponent's board. And for the most part, I'm generally in favor of that. It is a frustrating experience when on turn 3, you've just filled up your board and you're setting up your play lines nicely and you're ready to do what you want, and then all of a sudden your opponent just throws rocks on your board. It is an unenjoyable experience to play against, and if people need a reminder of that, and you weren't here when White Widow was literally everywhere, it is a frustrating experience, to say the least. And yes, there's a competitive sense to this, and being able to shut down what your opponent does is a legitimate strategy. It is just an unfun strategy, and I'm okay with Second Dinner, as they have been lately, taking the direction of the meta to be let's make strategies that are fun, and let's make unfun strategies still possible, maybe even a little bit better if they put in more effort. Great, you are having to put in more effort into your Debrii, but your Debrii is now 7 power. That's a gladiator almost. That's I think this is good. And then to give some actual words from the OTA notes, Second Dinner themselves said, in an ideal world, Debrii now, who has a rather large power for her cost, can also be considered in some niche Patriot or Strange Supreme strategies as a mean to leverage the amount of numbers and materials she generates. And I think that's huge. So something we're going to do in these OTA videos is if I think that this change may bring about a new style of deck, I'm going to talk about it. And one of those things I think is this Surfer Patriot deck that I've been thinking about a lot. Obviously, Patriot, put in Marvel Boy, put in Silver Surfer himself, put in Human Torch, First Steps, put in a Dazzler, put in a Brood, right? All of these cards that are really synergistic in what they want to accomplish. I think that it could be a very, very legitimate strategy. Even if you wanted to, you could include a Viper as a backup strategy if you don't draw a Patriot, or a little bit of both. I think that this Patriot rock strategy could be very, very real. There's also a possibility that in some zoo-based decks, the Debrii just replaces Shauna, because I do not play Shauna in zoo for the one reason that I'm sick of Shauna generating either a second Squirrel Girl when I already have one on the board, and now my whole board is filled up, or a Loki, Or the worst one is Sauron, and now my Blue Marvel and my Khazar in my deck are just nuked. I don't like Shauna at all. She also like fills up her own location, which I'm not a huge fan of. The power output is probably going to be better for Shauna, but I do think that there is a very legitimate argument to have Debris included in a zoo strategy, which I like. I really enjoy zoo. Now, if you're wanting to still invest yourself into the like clog strategy, like sending those rocks to your opponent's side of the board, you're going to obviously need to rely more on Viper, but Viper's only going to be able to target one of two rocks. If you play your strategy right, you could Viper and Grandmaster, right? Debris in the left location, and then you play Viper and Grandmaster in the right, and so Viper goes, the rock on the right is sent over, she goes to the center and sends over the rock in the center. You could do something like that, or you could go the package of Hazmat / Yellow Jacket and Annihilus and decrease those rocks in power and then send them over, which probably is better anyway. So again, it requires more effort from you, but in investing more effort, maybe you're in a better situation because your Debris is also now 7 power. Again, I mean, this is me and my experience, but I'm annoyed when my opponent just plays Debris. But if someone plays the new Debris and then they go through the work of vipering over their rocks and still clog me, well, I can respect the effort. You put in the work to clog the board, so I'll let you have it. I think that for the most part, this is a good change. The one way that I think that this is a bad change is that move is absolutely everywhere. And people in high MMRs, like the really high parts of the ladder and Infinite, are complaining about move being oppressive in basically every single game and being like the top performing deck everywhere. And with the release of Spider-Punk, we're seeing more and more people play move. And the only argument I have with this being bad is that if move becomes an oppressive deck at every MMR rank, we're going to need clog, but we're not quite there yet. So I think this is a good change. All right, the next card is the girl I love, Misery. Her ability is staying the exact same, no text change shit. She is just having a decrease of 1 power, going from a 4/9, which is kind of insane, honestly, to a 4/8, which I think is very reasonable. The summary of what they said is that Misery is a strong card when you know what you're doing, and that some players don't know what they're doing, and that she can really underperform. And so forth. She's been slow. Didn't she start as like a 4/5? And then they buffed her to 4/6, and then all the way to 4/9. I don't know, but they buffed her multiple times. So like their reasoning in the OTA is that they want to make the game and they want to make the balance of cards fun for the most people possible. And it's challenging because if you're good at using Misery, Misery's really, really strong. If you're not good at using Misery, Misery's weak. And so trying to balance for most people lies somewhere in between. And so I think that, this change is very, very necessary. There's many times, and I play a lot of Misery. I have been campaigning for people to play Misery. If you're a long supporter of the channel, you know that. I love Misery. And sometimes I'm just playing Misery for the stats. Like 4/9 is crazy. Crazy good stats. So I think a 4/8 is totally okay. One little excerpt from the actual OTA notes that I loved is that the strongest Misery decks are Victoria Hand decks, which I've been telling people that for, 6 months probably, maybe longer. When was my first video I made about that Misery Victoria Hand deck? I'm telling you, it's a good combo, and I'm happy to see that. It is kind of sad because I love playing Victoria Hand. I still love playing Victoria Hand, but I particularly enjoyed her when she was kind of off meta and people weren't playing her. And now people are. I've been telling them to. I don't blame them, But that was exciting, because I've been saying that for a long time. So, yeah. Do I have any decks for this? No. It's the exact same. Keep playing Misery the way that you are. Moving on to the next change with another nerf of Cosmic Ghost Rider. Same ability, same text. He is also just losing a point of power, going from a 5/7 to a 5/6. The long summary is that Cosmic Ghost Rider is a strong card and he doesn't need premium power. And I'm in total support of that. I have been just stomped on by Cosmic Ghost Rider. And there's like a level of grief that you go through when a new tech card that is good and is kind of necessary, like Cosmic Ghost Rider, gets introduced into the game, because it changes the way you have to play. And there's a lot of missing the old way that I could play when Cosmic Ghost Rider isn't there that I have to deal with. And then once I get through that acceptance and realize that, okay, the game has changed or whatever, and I got to adapt how I play and I have to be a smarter player, that's fine. But the thing that has been frustrating is that there's multiple times where I intentionally avoid the Cosmic Ghost Rider effects. I'm putting my special cards in the second row. I'm playing really well. Yeah, they still got to play a 5/7. Like that. That's I think this is reasonable. I think Cosmic Ghost Rider will still be good as a 5/5 even. But that's just me. One thing that they did say that was just really interesting is, quote, as it stands, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Enchantress, and Iron Man carry a huge share of the played 5-cost cards, and we'd like to take more action to shift incentives away from tech being the most played 5-cost cards. Somebody should do the math to see if the untapped data for Cosmic Ghost Rider, Enchantress, and Iron Man are the same, like if they're the top performing. And the reason I say that, this is a little side tangent, Harry Perry side tangent, is that whenever you see any untapped stats, be very careful with them, because they are a very sliver of a segment of the player base. Automatically, they're a more sweaty, invested player by nature of having untapped installed on whatever device they're playing on. And those types of people play a very specific way. Most of them are content creators, or most of them are high ladder performance. They're like really into the competitive aspect of it. They're really like there's a very specific way that those players play. So I say that to say, like, hey, we as a community rely on untapped because that's all we have. And here we're getting a glimpse into like the bigger picture that we don't have, that Cosmic Ghost Rider, Enchantress, and Iron Man are a huge share of the 5-cost cards that are played. What does untapped say? Probably the same thing, because they're good cards. But this was a bad card to go on this tangent on, because I don't think the data would be different. But I'm still curious. Like, I'm just pointing out that separation of like all the information that Second Dinner is using when they balance the meta and have OTAs, compared to like the tiniest sliver that we have in untapped. However, back to what we are saying here. We'd like to take more action to shift incentives away from tech being the most played 5-cost cards. And then they talk about later in the OTA that they want to make playing 5-cost cards more incentivized, whatever. Want to know what you could do to have people play a different 5-cost card? Buff this dude. Like, he's just sitting there. Take him back to a 5/8. He was not oppressive, but he was good at a 5/8. I love playing this card. I play him a lot. I have the Spotlight variant for him. He's bad. You want more people to play interesting 5-costs. Make the interesting 5-costs something that aren't tech. Keep his stones at 2 power. You can even change his stones if you want. I think most of them are fine. Source 3 in the comments is going to disagree, because he's been whipping up some changes, and they're actually good. You could change the stones. But even just increasing his power would make him not oppressive, but a good 5-cost to play. Like, it's really interesting that Cosmic Ghost Rider can have 7 power, but Infinity Ultron, who takes up your whole turn 5 and turn 6, can only have 6 power. What are we doing, people? Like, make him 8. When he was an 8 power before they moved the stones back to... when the stones were still 3, and they temporarily buffed him to 8 power, he was so fun to play. He still wasn't great, but it was, like, fun to play. And it's just like, why can't we have that back? Don't be afraid of him, okay? He's not going to hurt you. He's not going to hurt the meta. He's really not. He's so harmless right now. Please buff him. Okay, moving on. Speaking of 5-costs, here we go to the buffs. Vision. Text remains the exact same, but he is going up to a 5/9. Yeah. Okay, he's going up to a 5/9. And what they said is, here's a selection of buffs of underplayed cards. And Vision isn't exactly... Here's what they said. Here's a selection of buffs to underplayed cards, and Vision is exactly a candidate for weaker 5-costs that we felt could use a little love. What are you seeing? Second Dinner, can you please share your Infinity Ultron deck? Because the rest of us in the community must be playing it wrong. And believe me, I try all the time. I think this is good. Yeah, Vision deserves a buff. I forgot to fix my slides here so that my deck suggestions aren't here. But does that mean that he's like... that not only these 3 cards and like that Silky Smooth, that they can be back, but that more specifically he can be played in that? That's good. I love playing Vision. He's a fun card. Every time I play Vision, I'm like, yeah, I like this card. But then every time I play him, I'm like, why would I play this card versus anything else? Even though I really like him. So I think this is good. I'm all for it. The next buff we have as part of this little blurb that we got, that here's a selection of underplayed cards. And then they talked about Vision, and they said nothing else about the first Ghost Rider, but they buffed him from a 2/6 to a 2/7. His text stayed the same. They literally did nothing. They'd said nothing else. Fine, yeah, he needs the power. I think like he's just an underplayed card that could be better. And I went and I was like, hey, maybe it brings back something like this. And I just like threw something together really, really quickly in Untapped just to take the screenshot of. I like this Conchu build that a lot of people were experimenting when the Cosmic Ghost Rider, or when Conchu and the first Ghost Rider were first released, and there was a lot of Gore and Iron Man discards. I think White Tiger is like a super fun choice in this. So I checked Untapped, and like nobody's playing this. There's like 2 decks that have data, and they both have a negative win rate. And then there's a few other decks, but they just don't have data. Like no one's playing this. And is the 7 power to Cosmic Ghost Rider going to change that? Maybe. I mean, do 7. That's pretty crazy. So maybe. I think so. Also, you get to play Swordmaster. Who doesn't love that? That's so cool. I think this is good. Maybe I'll try this if I have time. That's the problem. I'm always running out of time. And I think the other challenge is that, like, similar to that extent, like, people only have so much time to play. And there's, like, been a particular interest in, like, I just want to do really well on the ladder, so let me play the most synergistic thing ever. And so it leaves cards like Cosmic Ghost Rider behind. So I appreciate the effort that they're making to bring him back. Maybe we can do it. Moving on to the other buffs. M'Baku, they said nothing. Like, not a single word. They didn't even say his name. They just put him up to 3 power. Man, he still has the same text where if he's in your deck, he jumps to the lowest power location that isn't full. So he still can't jump from your hand, which is frustrating. But he's 3 power. Like, he's a free 1/3 if in the right circumstances. So are we going to see a revival of like this blink M'Baku? Probably not. That's probably the worst possible idea. Like, do I really want to play a 5 cost on a 1 cost to pull out a 2 cost from my deck? Nah, probably not. But what I do think is interesting is that Prowler, the card that I'm extremely excited for, is going to be in so many decks. He's going to be so good. But one of the really cool ones that already kind of exists is like this Merlin Werewolf by Night deck that the Prowler is going to fit in very well with a lot of skills being played. I think M'Baku belongs in that because Merlin's spells just chucking cards into the deck. I want to chuck M'Baku back into the deck and have him come back out. The problem is that also got harder because he's now 3 power, so like, him and Merlin are in the same location. You might hit your Merlin and chuck him back into the deck. So yeah, I think this is good. M'Baku, I'm going to play him. I'm going to try when Prowler's released. I need 3 weeks before any other card is released after Prowler. I have so many decks I'm trying to play, but I'll try playing an M'Baku one. And then over here in the Shiloh corner is like, maybe with Lockjaw. I don't know, but not really. I just kind of put him in the corner to be funny. Sure. Speaking of which, I see so much of that Electro. Regis, why did you make a video on it? Why did you make a video? Like I said, content creators control the meta. Regis made a video that one of the best performing decks was this Lockdown Electro War Machine Storm Legion combo. What are we doing? Why are we bringing that back into the meta? Also, why are you playing that? Do you know how many 1 and 2 cubers? Like, if I see that combo coming, I'm out of it. I'm not even going to give you the time of day. So, yeah, maybe if you're playing that, you could include M'Baku. There's another free card flying onto the board. You'll have to get really lucky with your Lockjaw, though. So, and then we have another buff. 4/4 Fanfei, going from a 4/7 to a 4/4. Holy smokes. You're like, what? That's not a buff. Well, it's because her text changed. It's still the same where she's an activate, and she moves your other cards here to the right. However, she gives them +1 power, similar to like an Aranya. The summary of the notes is that raw numbers is basically the same. If you have a full location with her, it's going to be the exact same numbers. Expensive movers are hard, and they want to experiment to see if they can make it happen. This is what they said. When you include that Fanfei is growing other move cards, most notably Human Torch, this felt like a fun direction to give Fanfei some additional strength and utility. Is this going to make anybody play Fanfei? Probably not, to be fair. Do I wish that it was? Yeah, when Fanfei was released and we were all trying to cook with Fanfei and Topaz all at the same time, that was a weird week in Marvel Snap. Fanfei was fun. I thought it was enjoyable to play. I liked playing Fanfei. Do I think this changes anything? Not really, but maybe that's me being an unbeliever. And I think that's like the biggest takeaway of the OTA is that like if we don't care, no buff or rework is going to change things, if that makes sense. Like, people have to care to play the card. People have to put in effort to build with the card. People have to put in the mental capacity to do something different than what they've done for the last 75 games they've played. And is this enough to get people invested to do that with FanFay? I don't think so. But you can be the person who does that. I'm not going to because I'm too busy. What a dumb mentality. Oh, yeah, man, I'm really part of the problem. Okay, and then the last one, which was shocking to me to see, is Hydra Stomper. Same ability, ongoing +1 power for each time one of your cards move this game. However, he's going up to a 3-3. He's currently at a 3-2. And I just included their whole blurb that they had about Hydra Stomper here because I thought it was interesting. I'm just going to read it. Speaking of experiments, this is probably the largest one on the buff front. Hydra Stomper isn't exactly a weak card, but it doesn't see very much play. The majority of strong move decks are more about scaling Human Torch, sometimes using Living Tribunal to overwhelm your opponent. In an ideal world, they said that twice in the notes, by the way, if anyone cares, we would have a strong secondary move archetype that is more about mass move, perhaps leveraging some of the tools in Spider-Punk season. We think Hydra Stomper is a fun and important piece of the puzzle that hasn't been quite strong enough to encourage folks to build decks outside of that Human Torch template, and so we're taking a shot at buffing it today. Second Dinner, are you not subscribed to the Harry Perry channel? I literally put out a video last season about Hydra Stomper. I love this mass move archetype. I think it's one of the funnest to play. I think I've made like 3 videos on it. Anyway, that's me tooting my own horn. Where was I? As noted, a few months back, we were swapped the cost of Human Torch and Vulture. The journey to getting move into the most fun spot is a slow and tricky one, and we will continue to be willing to revert and make adjustments as appropriate. I could have excluded that. This is basically what I said in my season review video when I was talking about Spider-Punk, that, like, is there going to be an archetype that is, that like, the words that I used is that, like, Human Torch and Vulture and Dagger, those move decks are interested in, like, quality of moves, right? You don't necessarily need to move 17 cards in the course of a game. You want to move 1 card 17 times or whatever. Like it's a quality of moves that you're trying to make. You want to move very specific cards in specific ways to specific spots and scale their power. There is a very fun deck that I've made a video about that I think that I've yet to make for Spider-Punk that I'm going to be excited to make, of just like, let's move as much as possible. Let's have silks flying around everywhere. Let's have the shield flinging back and forth. Let's see that our little favorite, is he German? Batroc, let's see him jumping all over the place. Let's send Spider-Punk every direction. Let's put Zorn down and have cards flinging about. Like, I'm all for that. And I'm really, really excited. And I think that that's a really, really fun archetype with move. It's very different. And mass move is maybe what we can call it. The one disappointment that I have is that this season we are getting so many cards that really fit into that archetype, the Spider People. And then we got this mech from World War II. It just ruins the theme. That's my one complaint. Is why is he Hydra Stomper and not, I don't know, some spider character? I can't come up with it. I'm not integrated into the lore enough. You know, because like Hydra Stomper and Captain Carter never going to be in the same deck together, not a single time. But Hydra Stomper is going to be with a bunch of spider people. So, I don't know. I guess it's the same problem we have that Human Torch is with, Aranya and Iron Fist and those types of cards. Whatever. You want to know what card really cares about this? Ezekiel Sims. Next week, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. That's one I'm holding off on making this like mass move deck that I really have a good time with. I think next week with Ezekiel Sims, we're just going to be flinging cards everywhere. My board is going to be in a constant state of moving. Even when it's not your turn, my cards are going to be moving. I'm telling you, it's going to be so much fun. Yeah, I hope that mass move becomes an archetype. I think it deserves to be, and I'm excited to have more cards in that toolkit. And if they're willing to buff Hydra Stomper, I'll take it. I have no complaints about that whatsoever. So that is all for the OTA. There's no other slides. That means there are no other cards, works, or changes. So let me know what you think about it. And also let me know what you think about the video. This was the first one we did on the channel, and it was a lot of fun. We did it because you voted. So thank you for being incredible viewers. If you made it to this point, you know you need to leave a pineapple emoji. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you in the comments. Thanks for watching this video, because it wouldn't have happened without you. It sincerely means a lot to me.